you don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
And to the serving sizes that people want you to have.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. I'm Courtney, and as always, this is my brother Paris, and we're releasing this episode on December 8th, so we're officially into the holiday season, which makes me really excited. Like, I don't know about you, Paris, I've actually already baked some holiday cookies. I never bake cookies. Anything is not usually something I do, but this is the one time a year I do it, and it's just kind of more for the fun of like, you know, doing it with my partner. It's kind of become our tradition. I don't know. Are you in the festive mood yet?
Almost. I mean, Tara and I on the weekend, we were walking around the grocery store and we saw those cookies. There's like some elf cookies, and I was very tempted. To get those that you just slip in the oven and then bake. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in the holiday mood just yet. There's some things I want to check off on the year list first before I'm like fully in the holiday mood. But thinking ahead to it gets me excited. And I actually do, even though I'm a serious guy, I really do like Christmas, I got to say.
It's fun. And I think my favorite part of Christmas has always been just like, well, I mean, it can be hectic, family time, but we get our family time in, right? And especially I think since, you know, I moved out to BC, like I'll be coming back at the beginning of December. Actually, I'll be there when this episode comes out. So spoiler alert, we're in two parallel universes. But it'll be nice just to have kind of like that time all together, which I'm appreciative of. And I think I also feel very fortunate that our family dynamic, typically, I mean, every family has their things, but like we can connect and have a good time and actually focus on like the joy of the occasion together. And I do see that as a privilege because I know everybody's circumstance around the holidays is quite different.
Yeah, definitely. I think every year that goes by, I'm more and more appreciative of relationships, family, and that everybody's like healthy, knock on wood. I think every year that goes by, I think about that more and more and more, which is interesting. So, yeah, definitely really excited for the experiences. And today's topic is very much on point with these experiences with family. Yes. Because we just said we love our family, everything like that. But as a, we'll say, goal-oriented person within our fitness, self-development, health, whatever you want to call it, journey, sometimes people have some stuff to say.
Yes. And if you have a great relationship with your family or a strained relationship with your family, there's often always going to be comments around food and drink and togetherness, no matter what, right? There will be comments made, and it's something you and I have both experienced in the past from family member or, you know, non-family members too. At the end of the day, family gatherings are part of the holidays, but they're also part of the rest of the year. And regardless if it's the holidays or not, there likely is going to be comments made your way when people start to observe your decisions being either different from theirs, and we're talking about like food and drink specifically, or when your decisions don't match what they expect of you. And I think those two things typically come to the forefront as like the two things people, or the two reasons people will comment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as people start to know that you're, you know, somebody who likes to be in awesome shape and stuff like that, or works towards their goals, then the frequency of those comments tend to amplify over time, right? Like,
you think so? I was actually thinking the opposite. Explain that to me.
Okay, so in terms of I would say in terms of their assumptions, maybe not in terms of their surprise or
right.
That's a good point.
Okay,
not like their surprise of like, oh, why aren't you eating this or stuff, but more so their assumptions, like, you know, people say, oh, but you're not going to have this, right? Or like, oh, you know, like you need this instead, or are you going to eat that? It's like they have certain assumptions based on how you're supposed to eat. Like I hear the wackiest stuff like, oh, but you can't have the steak, right? Because it has fat in it. I'm like, what?
Or do people know how often you actually eat steak?
I eat steak pretty regularly. Or like, yeah, but you don't want any of the rice, right? Because like it's carbs. I'm like, and then you don't want to explain the entire, you know, everything. So I think those comments are more frequent. But as you said, the ones like with the surprise and you're not having cake, why? What's wrong with it? Like those comments tend to lessen over time. So it's like, you know, one goes up, one goes down.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think it's just like the nature of comments will change at different stages of your fitness journeys, and maybe depending on how exposed those around you have been to your fitness journey over time as well. But I think it is important that we like acknowledge both of those things. Yes. And today's conversation is going to address both. So if you're somebody who's more advanced in your fitness journey and you're getting comments around like, well, people know you're fitness oriented, but their comments are still going to be a form of what I'm going to call food shaming, right? Because they're trying to hold up the identity, not that you created for yourself, but that they have for you, hold that up against these generic blanket statements that may or may not even be relevant to you.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, if you're new to your fitness journey and you're making different types of choices for the first time, then that can also, make people more aware of what you're doing, and they'll be like, oh, they might be startled because it's novel for you. It's also novel for the people around you. So we're going to talk about those two things and talk about those triggers. And I think the terminology you and I landed on for this episode is kind of this idea of food shaming, right?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
In a sense, yeah. And I know it sounds harsh, and there's other dimensions about it that we're probably not going to talk about in this particular episode. But what we really want to get at today is how can you manage the commentary at family events or other social gatherings, but we're going to kind of lean into the family event side of things because it's that time of year, that are really about other people observing and passing judgment on the food choices you make or don't make. That's kind of the core theme. So just to kind of make it feel tangible, I'm going to shout out a couple sound bites, and then you go for it too. And we'll say, like, here are some of the things we have heard either directly or through our clients and what they might have heard. So common sound bites that relate to this topic today include, oh, but it's the holidays. One bite won't kill you, but I made it with love. Any others that you have that you typically have heard?
More like the assumption ones to me now, but I'm trying to think back to like earlier on. Live a little. That's a one. Like, oh, why don't you just live a little?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm gonna live a lot longer because of my sin. No, it's like I'm actually theoretically gonna live quite a long time, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, live a little is a big one. It's like, oh, don't you have any fun? It's like, oh, well, you gotta enjoy life sometimes too, right? Like, you can't always be so strict. You can't always be restricted. Like those kind of comments.
It's interesting because people think that you're restricting, but I don't see you as somebody who restricts. I think of you as somebody who just makes very intentional choices, right?
Yeah, I'm very calculated, but I wouldn't say I'm like restrictive at all.
No.
Like if you were to look at my day of eating, like yesterday I had 5 mini Rice Krispie squares. Like I don't know how that's like restrictive at all. And it hit my numbers perfectly. But yeah, I had two with my pre-workout meal. I had 2 with my post-workout meal, and I had 2 with my Ninja Creamy at night. Or that's 6. That's actually 6.
Okay, I had 2 the other day, but I don't think I've exceeded 2 in a day. Okay, I think we just solved this episode. The key strategy is just bring Rice Krispie squares to Christmas dinner. Eat those. No one will pass judgment. Bonus points if they're the ones with the red and green sprinkles on top. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That just shatters some people's beliefs on like, yeah, oh, you can't eat carbs or this. But that's just a perfect example of those types of comments. But then if they were to follow me around and be like, oh, you ate 6 Rice Krispie squares and you look like that? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I think that actually brings me to like a really important perspective to kick this off, which is like people are seeing a snapshot of you in that moment, right? Like when you're sitting down to Christmas dinner, or when you're, having, I don't know, you have breakfast traditions, Christmas morning, or things like that, or like that holiday work event. Those are snapshots of you. And just like nobody's entire relationship with food is usually defined by like one meal. And we talk about that in the sense of like, okay, give yourself grace. One meal is not going to make or break your whole journey. But at the same time, it's not also reflective of everything that you are and everything that you do and every choice you make around food for your entire existence.
Yeah, I think that's true. And people are worried so much around the holidays, but they're not worried about the rest of the year. I'm like, guys, we get so obsessed over these few days, but we're missing on our variables for the rest of the year. Like, it's just we're worried about the wrong stuff here. But anyways,
yeah, we need the inverse of that. So let's tie it back into like now kind of the social pressures and the food shaming and things like that. I think you guys have a good sense of now how we feel. If you're listening, you know how we feel kind of about approaching this. But really it starts with acknowledging the triggers of those comments that you might be getting from other people. And one thing I've come to accept, and it's also made me more, I think, compassionate in maybe how I handle some of those comments over time, is just having the awareness and understanding that those comments usually don't have anything to do with you, right? Like if I were to get a comment like that from somebody telling me to live a little, or like, oh, it's just this once, or just enjoy it, it's the holidays, tomorrow's another day, that sort of thing. I've come to recognize that actually has nothing to do with me and my choice. It often is a reflection of the person who's sharing that comment with me. Do you want me to, I have some thoughts on like what I think it's a reflection of, but do you want to jump in on that? Do you agree?
Yeah. I was just going to say, a lot of times these comments come from insecurity of the person. And a lot of times it's because they haven't been able to lock it in and take control over their journey, that then they reflect that onto you by making these comments of judgment, like, oh, Paris is in shape, but there's no way he can enjoy his life. Like, there's no
Mm-hmm.
way he's
Mm-hmm.
over restricted. Like, there's no way he's actually happy. Like they can't, they want to have that in their head as because they're insecure at the fact that like they haven't been able to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this is not us passing judgment on people who do make those comments. It's just something that I think we need to consider as the recipients of those comments
Yeah,
and saying, like, you know what, maybe there's something that they're struggling with. And it's actually not about my struggle, it's about their struggle. And coming to terms with that and showing them a little bit of empathy in that moment. And also
yes.
recognizing that some people just don't want to be alone in their behaviors either. So when
Hmm.
somebody is struggling, saying, like, I don't, if they were to say, I don't know how to say no to this extra cookie, right? Or I'm going to eat it anyways, even though I don't want it. And that's their belief system. Then they're looking for somebody who's going to validate their belief system. And this is largely at subconscious level. It's not like people are like, oh, I'm going to take this person down with me. It's just, that idea of looking for somebody to validate your own decisions and to be with you alongside those decisions. And
For
I think
sure.
that's kind of just human nature. Again, I'm not saying this to be judgmental. It's just we need to acknowledge that this is usually the psychology behind those comments.
Yes. And also, like, you can't assume that people are going to be as educated on
Mm,
nutritional science as you are. So like when somebody says, oh, you can't eat that because it's carbs, right? I shouldn't get triggered because they don't know, like, how could you not know that, like, you can still eat carbs? Like, it's more so they haven't like studied this stuff probably as much as you have, or have as much context or experience or knowledge surrounding this. So they're just like, it's not their fault that they're uneducated, because like they're not into this stuff, which is
no.
okay.
And a
So
lot of the times they've been fed misinformation. So we
yeah,
cannot blame
yeah.
those people. We blame the environment around them or the lack of positive information that's found them, right? So I think we need to consider that too. I'm glad you brought that up. Sometimes it's just there's actually no intention of judgment on their part either. It's just, hey, I've heard this fact. Does this fact apply to you? And it's just this kind of objective trying to fit these two things together. And it comes off in a way where you might, as somebody who is, what carbs are just so regular for me, why would you even think that, right? We then make that about ourselves when it's not.
Yeah, we easily get on the defensive, and I've done this too. Like, somebody will say something, I'm like, clenching my fist, but it's like it's not really meant bad, and sometimes they're also just curious. Like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they might ask, "Oh, why are you eating that instead of that?" And
Right.
like, it's not like trying to point you out and like be like, "Oh, why are you eating that?" It's more like, I'm actually genuinely curious. Like, what's the rationale behind why
Yeah.
you're eating this instead of that, right?
And I think that's a great
So
opportunity to educate, right? That's somebody,
yeah.
like, we should never shut that down when some and just be
Hmm.
like, oh, just leave me alone. Like, that would not be the appropriate response, because now we're saying,
Hmm.
like, hey, here's somebody who's actively looking to understand and maybe trying to connect with you on something. And like, that's an opportunity to be like, hey, actually, yeah, this is why. Or, you know what, I actually planned for this today. Or, you know what, this is my favorite thing that I wait all year for. I'm going to enjoy it and then move on tomorrow. Like, whatever it is that is your own intention, it's an opportunity to share with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that. So we talked about kind of how sometimes those comments, those food shaming comments, let's call them, are a projection of the person. I think one other thing that I do want to acknowledge is that it's not always that individual person, but it's the social norms that they have become accustomed to as well,
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
social structures that are part of the holidays. And so when we take that lens of like thinking about where that person's coming from, sometimes it's their own psychology, sometimes it's the information they've heard or haven't heard, and sometimes it is actually just like the environments that they've been in before and how they're just kind of sticking to those norms.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last thing is, like, I will say this, I just want to put this out there. Like, for me, food is a love language. Like, I love cooking for the people in my life. Like, when Paris, you and Tara came to visit, I was like, how many meals can I cook you in
Yeah.
4 days or whatever? Right. I
Yeah.
love
They
that.
were
And
great.
so,
Yeah.
pardon me?
They were great. They
There,
were
oh,
great
good. I'm
meals.
glad you thought so. We'll have to do a Christmas edition one day. But the point of that is, like, when somebody's hosting you, right? And you're in an event when somebody's hosting, I'm very sympathetic to the case of like them sharing their food with you as a way that they're hosting you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think like we also need to recognize that when they make those comments about maybe you're not eating something they put their heart into, or you're behaving slightly differently than their other guests, like, I'm sympathetic to the cause that they're trying to fulfill their need of being a good host.
Yes, for sure. For
Mm-hmm.
sure. Yeah. And them asking if you want this or want
Mm-hmm.
this or want this, like, don't take it as annoying, because it's all out of love a lot of times. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we've done a good job covering kind of like where those comments come from and just being understanding enough about the person on the other side and trying
Hmm.
to not go on the defense. But we will also talk about some strategies now to help you have productive conversations when those comments arise. And it starts a little bit before, kind of during before and during really is kind of how we want to prepare you today. But before we get into that, I think there's an important conversation that actually has to do not just with these core family gatherings, but how you approach your fitness journey with your family in general. And so it can make you feel more prepared for these conversations than when you're at the table or at that gathering. And I do want to distinguish between, like, there are people who are going to be in your close circle or your family members that are the closest to you or the most engaged with your journey or see you most day to day. And then there are maybe, let's call them more extended family members or accessory family members that you maybe only see on these occasions.
Yes.
And I do think we need to distinguish between that, because when we're talking about family gatherings, the conversations and the dynamics between those two groups are very different.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but regardless of what time of year it is, how many family gatherings you have, or where you're at in your fitness journey, when we're talking about the people in your family that are the closest to you, and I say this to my clients all the time, I think it's really important to actually have a conversation with those people about what you are doing, but more importantly, why you are doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one of, I think, the biggest things that can trigger some of these food shaming comments is if you tell people you're on a diet. And that is never language you just heard it out of my mouth, but other than this example, you won't hear me say that. And I won't ever encourage my clients to say that, because that is invoking judgment. People will hear you say, I'm on a diet, and they'll be like, oh, well, you don't need to lose weight, or, oh, you look great, or like, diet can start tomorrow. Like, because I think we first and foremost have to accept that the behaviors that we're embarking on when we're making these food choices aren't about being on a diet. Even if you're in a fat loss phase, don't use that language. It's about understanding, like, why are your food choices actually important to you? What goal are they satisfying for you? And people can get behind that. If you say, hey, I'm working at, like, changing my relationship with food so I can make more confident decisions and change my body composition to show up more confidently in my everyday, that gives a lot more meaning to your decision not to eat that cookie, and one that people can then understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even if you want to phrase it simpler to that, because that's pretty like insightful, and most people will maybe not be able to recite that, but even you just say, hey, like I'm working towards some like goals right now, that, and sometimes that's all you need to say. And I think for your like inner circle, that's when you have the responsibility to explain your goals and help people understand, because a lot of times people might be just surprised by your choices because they don't even know you're working to any goals. But if you say, hey, listen, like, I'm trying to change my lifestyle. I have these XY goals that I'm trying to achieve. Like, that's why you might see me make some different choice around food. Like, are you cool with that? Are you on board? Are you here? You want to support me through that? Is that fine? Right. Versus the extended circle.
Yeah.
You're not going to have these conversations with that. That's weird.
Right,
They'll
that's
be like, why are you telling me this? I'm like 4 beers deep in the Christmas dinner. Like, I don't give a shit, So they're like, I didn't come here for the life chats. Or maybe they did. But I think in those situations for them, you can just kind of leave a certain label, like, I don't feel like that food right now, or I'm already, like, you can have other things that you say to them without, you don't have to deep dive into it.
No, exactly. And we'll get into more of like those other things in a second. We want to give you some kind of scripts to help you, but we wanted to upfront differentiate between the two, right? But differentiate between the people who are like in your inner circle that, like, you can talk to them about your goals openly, and that breeds understanding and reduces any triggers of food shame commentary. And then on the other side is like, there are people maybe that aren't going to have that background and don't need that background. And then it's just simple scripts to help you manage those, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Fantastic. So shall we start talking about now the actionable, practical, like, how do we actually handle these moments?
Let's do it.
Okay. So imagine we're getting ready for Christmas dinner, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, whatever family holiday. Sometimes it's a birthday. Sometimes it could be Hanukkah, since it's that time of year as well. It could be Thanksgiving, which just passed, but we're talking about next year. Whatever it is, step one is actually setting your own intention. You can't talk to people or appropriately handle these comments if you don't actually know what you're doing for you, right? So I think setting that intention for yourself of like, what are I'm going to call them internal boundaries. Like, what are the boundaries that you're setting with yourself? Because then those are the boundaries that you can uphold with others. So if you're going into a certain family event and you're saying like, okay, my intention is to participate in this meal and eat these things or don't eat these things or go in with specific guidelines, like, you kind of need to know where you stand first. And if you can't rationalize your own behaviors to you, how do you expect anyone else to understand them?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's really well said. And like, we talked a lot about some of the planning type things more specifically in the other podcast episode, which we can maybe link in terms of like taking action items to like plan how you incorporate that meal within your day. But I think, as Courtney said, for this episode is talking about what's your mindset frame going in. Like, what does that event mean to you, and what like contract are you setting for yourself? Are you signing with yourself for this event? And sometimes that might be, this is a slightly more indulgent event for me, or it might be, hey, I'm really in momentum right now, and I'm going to be a little bit more specific with my choice at this event. But you're signing that contract with yourself so that you've decided what your mindset frame is going into the event before.
Yep, 100%. I think we can leave that one there. That's step one.
Yep.
That's step one.
Awesome.
Step two, during the event, it does come down to communication, right? We spoke earlier about maybe when you're communicating to people about why your goals are important to you, and if they're in your close circle, that might be something you've already done, right? But now when we get to those events, you're taking those internal boundaries you set for yourself, and now you're responsible for communicating them externally if somebody does make a comment to you. So let's talk about maybe some potential scenarios, or like we said, some simple scripts of like how you can approach those comments if somebody makes them to you. So Paris, let's go back to your favorite. If I were, you show up, we're having Christmas with mom, and she goes, hey, I bought this awesome cake. And you're like, I'm actually okay right now. I don't want any, right? And then I say to you, oh, come on, Paris, live a little. What would you say back to me?
I would flex my bicep and say, you think this was built with cake? Not joking. I would never say
I mean,
it. Probably
cake
was.
could have actually
Rice
contributed.
Krispies. It was
actually it was built with Rice Krispies.
Yeah, no. The main thing I say is, you know what, guys, I am, or girls, or peoples, or whatever,
familia.
I am so full because of how amazing that meal that you just made was. So I'm gonna have to pass on this one.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not full, I'll still say that.
Yeah. And I think part of it is just being like, it could be full, or if you're not full and you don't want to tell people you're not full, you can be like, I'm satisfied, right? Like, it just letting people know that you're actually okay. Like, you're not making this decision not to eat whatever food is presented to you because you're restricting. It's like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Yeah. I'm going to cruise here. Right. Yeah. And people can accept that. People can totally accept that.
Definitely. What's a good one that you use?
I mean, sometimes for me, you know me, I'm very inquisitive, right? So sometimes what I'll try to do is ask questions about the food to show that I'm engaged with it, because I do, as somebody who loves to cook, I do appreciate the effort that goes into preparing a meal or baking a homemade dessert. Because, like, God forbid, there's a reason I only do it once a year. Baking, because it's tough, it's tricky.
It's like chemistry,
yeah, it's chemistry. So I like to find other ways that I can also engage with food. So if somebody offers me like cookies, and I'm like, I'm just saying it right now, some days I will eat the cookie. Right? Because that might be my contract of the day. But there are also moments where either I choose not to, and sometimes it's just because I actually don't even want to. Like, I think there's a difference too between like, do I actually want to eat this thing right now? And like, am I choosing not to eat it for my goals? So we can talk about that in maybe a separate discussion, but that's also important.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But let's say for whatever reason, whether it's because I actually don't even want to eat it, or if it's because it doesn't align with my goals in the moment, I'm choosing not to eat that thing. I might choose other ways or go about other ways to try to engage that person in a conversation around the food that shows that I respect the effort that they put in and the love they put into those cookies. So it could be like, hey, where'd you find this recipe? Or like, tell me a little bit about what's in this. Or, just asking more questions about how they feel about it, why they made it the way they made it, those sorts of things, because it's just, people want to be appreciated and recognized. And we can recognize the effort people put into making these amazing meals without having to just eat it, right? There's other ways we can voice that recognition.
Or something you said to me even before we were chatting was, can I take a little bit home instead?
Yes.
You could say like, you know what, I'm good for today, but like, do you mind if I take a couple of cookies home? Like, I'm sure I'd love to try them tomorrow.
Yes. Thank you for actually bringing that up, because let's say like, with a lot of holiday gatherings, it's just plentiful. And I think one of the challenges is just overeating, because there's so much food, and it's not even about choosing to eat this thing or not choosing to eat it. It's just the sheer quantity. And let's say you're doing a potluck, it's hard to eat everybody's food
like
at a really
different choices. Yeah.
Or like, if you're doing one of those things where everybody brings a cookie and like you have like 25 extended family members, that's a lot of cookies. So the idea of bringing it home, it's not saying, hey, we eat all the cookies or we eat none of the cookies. It's just saying, it's finding that middle ground, right? And you can eat cookies are still good the day, next day, right? It's like,
100%. And sometimes if you have like somebody that you're like really close with that's coming with you to a family occasion, like a partner or a sibling or a mom, dad, whatever. Sometimes if they're having some, then you can try a bite instead and say, you know what, I'm going to have a bite of Courtney's. If Courtney's like having the cake and she's okay with it,
You're
that's what I'm saying.
assuming I
You
want
want
to
to be
share with
close with
you,
it.
but
Yeah, that's what so maybe like if you guys kind of say, hey, like, can I have a bite of yours? And then when they ask you, say, you know what, I'm gonna have some of Courtney's.
Mhm.
I'm super full, but I'm gonna try a bite of hers because I really want to try it. Like
Yeah,
that's another thing
yeah,
that I do regularly. Or like even if you don't want the whole thing, then you can say, okay, Courtney and I are going to split it,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
then maybe instead of having 400 calories, now you're having 200, and it's easier for you to allot into your budget for the day if you're doing the mental math type thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So like having alliances. I'm gonna make it
Yeah,
sound serious for a second, but
yeah,
like have
yeah.
an alliance. Like you're
Cookie
not in it
alliance.
alone. Cookie alliances split, and also cookie alliances are great if you want to try like more cookies,
Yeah, you can
right?
have two
Because like
halves of two different cookies. Yeah,
exactly, so you can make two people happy and show your
boom.
appreciation, right?
There we
Win-win.
go.
Amazing. So, anything else you want to add around like communication during those events? Are there any other like common phrases or scripts that you would help or recommend that people use?
Not really, honestly. Like those are just good ones. But I'm like, don't be afraid to say no if you don't want it. Like if you want it, have it. If you don't, we don't need to just accept everything because people say we. I know we talked about this in the other episode too, but it's like I think we just feel obligated to say yes, 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 especially around Christmas because people are more giving and they want to give you things, and it's that kind of mindset with people around the holidays, which is amazing. But doesn't mean that you have to be in an accepting mindset for
Mm-hmm.
literally everything. Like if I accepted all the food that our grandmother gave us at these occasions, I would probably have like my dinner alone would be like 3,000 calories, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like you don't have to say yes to
Mm-hmm.
everything
Yeah.
and to the serving sizes that people want you to have.
Right, right. For those who aren't aware, we have a Greek grandmother who we love dearly, but food is part of the love language in our culture, right? And so, which is also why we have this appreciation for the role it can play in bringing people together, but definitely makes it hard and also makes us experienced in how to navigate these conversations. But you're so
Definitely.
right, Paris. Like, there's a certain, you have like to be in a position where we are accepting is a privilege, right? We
Oh
have
yeah.
people like giving us an abundance of food with love, and like that is a privilege. So we do need to recognize
Yeah.
that. But I think you can recognize that privilege and still know when to have your boundaries.
Yes.
And you will
Agreed.
appreciate your choices that you do make even more, right? Because I think it's a lose-lose when now somebody's offered you something and you say yes even though you don't want it, or you feel crappy about saying yes, and then how are you making them happy when you're not even enjoying or feeling satisfied by the food that they're offering you, right? So choosing to also just
For
remember
sure.
that too is like, yeah, and we'll talk about the joy thing in a second, but I think it's so important to just recognize that. Okay, so speaking of joy, we're at that time. So I think step 3, so step 1 was setting your own internal boundaries, knowing like what's the contract you're making with yourself, what are your intentions. Step 2 is vocalizing some of those intentions
Mm-hmm.
in a productive way, or upholding those intentions with following some simple strategies to help navigate those conversations during these family gatherings. The third one is kind of like what you want to take with you out of those occasions, right? Family gatherings, I'm going to laugh a little when I say this because they're supposed to be joyful. I mean, anybody who's watched like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, that one might not have been so joyful of a family gathering in the end, but like the main thing is like focusing on the joy. And that's for you, but it's also for the people around you.
Yep. And I've talked about this in like 3 different episodes, but it's like when you are so present in the moment and enjoying the conversations and the people and like feeling all the mushy gushy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
along the holiday season, like you don't really need as much food to fill that void. Like if you're ever, it's kind of like if you're at a really bad party, you and your buddy are like, can we get some more drinks? Like we need another drink like that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're having such a great time, like you don't need those types of things. Same thing with here. It's like if you're so happy in the moment, like you don't need that slice of cake to make you feel good, right? Like for 5 seconds when you're eating it, it's like you can almost get fulfilled by the experience and just recognizing like how grateful we can be in these situations.
And also like trying to give that experience back to the people with you, right? Like hold on to it for yourself, be present, but also think about what can you give back that isn't just, oh, that person ate my cookie and they loved it, right? Like give them a funny joke. Like we can remember family occasions where we're all dying laughing. And to be honest, I don't remember what we had on our plate. Like certain Christmases, Thanksgivings, like I don't remember what we were eating. It's probably turkey, but whatever. I remember just like the jokes we were making and how hard we laughed, like falling off the chair laughing, right?
For sure.
And
Exactly.
that is the gift you can give people too. The
Hmm.
food, you know me, I'm a foodie. I think food's important. I love it. But sometimes it's a little less important than we think it is in the moment. Yeah.
I mean, you can make people laugh if you give them like special cookies, like you know.
Special cookies. If you bring cookies to Christmas this year, I'm going to be very skeptical.
That's so uncharacteristic of me. Like that would be like off-brand completely, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Hence my skepticism, double
yeah.
skepticism. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. So this time of year, is really about joy. It is about food. It is a little bit sometimes about indulgence, but if you choose to indulge, whatever that definition is for you, just making sure it's on your own terms. I think we all need to remember we do not need to justify our food decisions to anybody. You don't need to justify them to your parents, your partner. Sometimes you don't even need to justify them to your coach, even though like it's important you tell them why you're
Yeah,
making the
you
decisions you
keep them
are.
up to date. Yeah,
You need to keep them up to date, but there's a difference between informing people and justifying. Your behavior needs to be aligned with your goals for you and for the intentions that you set out, but you don't need to justify to other people why you're doing what you're doing.
exactly. I really like that, and also just keeping a peaceful mindset when you go into these occasions, especially if there's certain family members that can easily get under your skin, and you're going to be triggered by like very easily.
They make the
Then
same comments to you every year.
yeah, if you know those are coming, then when those comments come, like don't get so upset about them and so frustrated. Like you're going into the occasion being like, all right, so and so is probably going to say something like this. The other person is going to say probably something like this. It's like, so when it happens, it's not like, oh my god, they said this. It's just, all right, I was expecting that. Haha, yeah, whatever, and then just move on. Like I think at a certain point we can choose how much we get affected by certain things. And I think it's a choice of how upset we get by certain situations, especially if we are expecting them. Then it's like we can choose our reaction in a certain state. Yeah,
That's a great point. You can't control what they say or how they say it, but you can definitely control how you react to it and what it
yeah,
means to you. You're
yeah.
going to choose to assign meaning to it or not. Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect.
Amazing. Anything else you want to add in here, Paris?
I think that's pretty much it. A unique topic, but I think important. And I also want to say, like, if you guys have any stories of funny stuff happening at family occasions around food or comments, drop them in the comments on this. I would love to read it.
Me too. Everybody's got something. I'm sure we can find something. So it'd be really fun. And, you can keep it anonymous. We don't want to be throwing anyone's family members under the bus here. But if you have some funny stories to share, or if you have like great strategies or like scripts that you've used to be like, hey, I'm going to manage this in this way, and you found it helpful, also please do share it because we'd love to hear it. We'd love to share with our clients, and we'd love just for anyone else watching this to be able to see that too.
Perfect.
Okay.
Love it.
All right, that's this week's episode of Truth Talks, everybody. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. I can't believe I'm just going to say it. We are getting close to our 1 year anniversary. I mean, it's 2 months away, but we're getting there. So
Wow.
We're rounding out 2025 on the podcast already. We started it back in February, and this is now, I think, episode 45, if my counting is right. So some really exciting topics that we've covered, and we're already starting to look ahead in terms of planning to 2026. So if you don't want to miss out on what's to come next in Truth Talks, please do like, comment, subscribe, engage. Let us know what you've liked so far and what you might want to see next. All right. So without further ado, we will let you go for this week. Have a great week ahead, and we'll be back in your feeds with another episode of Truth Talks next Monday. Bye for now.
We'll see you then.